Hello everyone, it's been an exciting winter. Today's February 16th and I want to show the welding of the Oxygen Acetylene. It's been very cold outside, moving things around, getting some things done. But I'm going to get you right to it. We're going to start with brazing and the safety that is required that I know of years ago in using Oxygen Acetylene in storage. Whew! Everybody, we made it inside. It's cold out. Okay, I really want to emphasize on safety and the equipment. I know it seems boring, but for those that have never dealt with this and you want to learn it, I may not have exact answers, textbook, but I got a few things here that are very needed. So, first thing I want to talk about is the size of the bottle that you need. Acetylene and oxygen. I chose 40 years ago to get a bottle that it was small enough to pick it up. If you're working in the industry, they're going to want them big 250 cubic feet or 400 and something cubic feet. And that's great if you're working indoors and you can roll the bottle around on a cart. It's easy to get to it. But when you're out in the field on a smaller scale, working for yourself, the smaller bottles are easier to pick up. The older you get, they're easier to pick up too. The bottles themselves, never put any oil on it or soap. You always on the caps. You always, if they're rusty, then just take a wire brush, a stainless steel wire brush, and clean them real good. That's all you do. You don't want to do anything else to them to get the caps off. And always store the caps somewhere that it's dry so that you can always install them. The regulators and the torches. Wherever you go to a welding supply store, they're going to have a display of different products that are available for oxygen welding, oxygen acetylene welding. I prefer personally Victor. There's different sizes. Now, what you're looking at right here is a large regulator. This is a 450 series oxygen, and I think, is it 460? Yeah, 460 acetylene. This is really to be used in a larger bottles. There's maximum flow that can be used a long period of time, and they're real durable. But today's newer ones, they're different. They're green. The whole regulator's green with a black knob that's kind of like a cap, looks like a cap to turn the regulator in and out. And then the acetylene is red. They're different than these. This is the old style. The 250 series Victor and the 260 series, if that's still the numbers on the collared ones that are red and green, those are more of a smaller size regulator that is perfect for an individual. That's what I use on my welding truck. The regulators today are required to have what's called a flame arrestor. And they got one for oxygen, and you're going to have one for acetylene. That has to be on the regulator. It goes on this one. So, this fitting here is supposed to have a hose on it. So you got to take this out. And the reason you know that this one is for acetylene is because it has a notch where the hoses are going to hook up. or you can get a coupling. That's a fancy coupling. This will thread into there, and then you can get your hoses to go on. These have to be used. OSHA and DOT requires that to be in those regulators. Also, I like the Surelight, it's called, striker. These are easily to be removed, and you can put new ones on, and they're curved. You can hang them on the regulator. They don't get lost. The acetylene, when you're wanting to use it, you don't want to go past 15 psi on the gauge. It's just unstable at that point. When you're using the rosebud to heat stuff up, you know, you'll get that up to 14 and just leave it there. When you're acetylene welding, you want 5 to 1. Like if you're going to acetylene weld 5 psi, and your oxygen will be at 25. I like going a little higher though. I like going up into the 7 when I'm welding or cutting. It just gives me that more gas. That way I don't have to worry about it backfiring, because sometimes that's what it does if you got dirt affecting the tip. Always when you're done, you're going to shut that bottle off, and you're going to purge the system out of pressure, oxygen acetylene, and then you're going to want to turn these regulators back to where there's no more tension on it. And that helps the life of that regulator last longer. Clothing. You're going to want to have safety glasses, whether they're prescription safety glasses like I have. And this is for, I like the solid ones, plastic ones, not the flimsy ones. So you need safety glasses or prescription safety glasses, and you need these goggles. I don't even know if they'll let you wear goggles anymore without safety glasses. They used to have these ones that were circular, and I don't even know if they'll let you wear them anymore. Number 5, welding lens. This lens right here is a starting number. You may have to go to a 6, but 5 is a good number. And then gloves. The Tillman gloves, I think, are the nicest with the long cuff for oxyacetylene welding. But if you're going to start torching and handling metal, you want something that has more insulation inside it. These are Revco Black Stallion gloves, 1510. These are awesome gloves. In the wintertime, backhoe operators or operators, they like wearing these as well. Sometimes these gloves will come up missing. So you want to hang on to them and hide them. But these, they give protection, Nomax protection for flame and for heat. Here's another pair of gloves. For welding, more extensive welding, again, I got Black Stallion, which Revco sells or makes these or is the parent company of it. And these have Nomax in them as well. This here is very popular for pipeline welding. It has leather on the bottom of this, and on the top's the Nomax. So you get a better feel with your torch that you're holding it, but mainly for just cutting metal. These are what I would recommend using. That's what I like using. Green jacket. This is great. I mean, it for light duty welding, standing up. This is it. It'll work. Might want to get a special hat. Years ago there was a company that made the green hats. I don't know if they're around anymore. I think they are. Someday in the future I'll have to share that. But the green jackets are fine. Sleeves work as well, to a point. When you're maybe you know, where on your right hand side or left hand side, if you got a sleeve, it'll work. But as soon as you go to overhead, if you're welding, you're going to want to go to a jacket. As you can see, this one's seen a lot of business. Full jacket right here. That's because you're using it a lot, and you're down underneath, and it'll protect you. Earplugs, going to want to have earplugs. Any sparks, you don't want them going anywhere for sure. Fire extinguisher, always have a fully charged fire extinguisher and ready to go. Your hoses, you always want to look for anything that there's a cut in it. You always, usually every couple of years, you have to replace that. If not, they're indoors and they've been taken care of. When you start welding, make sure the area is clean. No wood shavings, no flammables. Always have a table that's metal that you're going to be working on, or a graded area where there's metal grading area, so that the flame doesn't catch anything on fire. And I'm going to start showing how to weld with brazing, and that's the first place to start anytime, you know, to get that feel of that torch. The heat is on that puddle, and you got to control that torch, whether it's angling horizontally or vertically. Not putting too much heat on the base metal. Maybe you need to put more heat on the adjacent piece that's being attached, or maybe you need to have it going forward so that it doesn't heat both of them up. And circling the torch flame, or maybe taking it away some and circling it. And when you get to a certain point where you're going to stop, yes, you're going to want to come back out of it just a little bit and hold it there, and then come back towards you as you're circling it. Because what's going to happen, it creates a vortex at the end of that weld, and a gas pocket will occur, and it'll actually have a pinhole going all the way down. So you want to stay there, daub it a little bit, and then come out, and then back a little bit, and that'll allow that pull out to not create a vortex, and it incurs and stops right there, creating no voids or gas pockets or pinholes in that weld. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'll tell you, this is an air cleaner that holds a filter, air filter, intake filter, and it's in good shape except for right here. This is where if moisture got in there or water, it would drain right here. And the old piece, there was nothing left of it. So I left the ring, it's spot welded down, and I don't want to get into it because it is pretty thick right here. It's not cracked, but I don't want to stick weld it. I don't want to TIG weld it. What I want to do is I want to braze it. So what I'm doing is I'm going across here and I'm buttering it. I'm going to put a layer of it all the way around this edge here, and it's going to, it is not pretty, but it's fusing into that metal. And I'll clean it as soon as I go all the way around, then I'll clean it up, and it takes all the porosity out, impurities. And then I have a saddled piece here, and I'll set it down on there, and then I'll weld that in place. And then there's a rubber boot that goes on here. This is brass rod, and it's 3/32, and it's coated with flux. And the torch, I got a number 2 tip. I'm not going to run a neutral flame. It's not an oxidized flame. It's got a little bit more fuel running to it than what it should have. But running on this rusty metal, if I run it down to a neutral, it'll snuff out the fire. Notice I'm holding my rod up higher than down here because the heat's coming this way. So I'm holding my rod up here above it. I don't want to get too hot. I'm staying on the rod a little bit more, but I see it's cherry. The base metal is cherry. And I gotta be careful. See how cherry it is right there? I don't want to burn through. But it's hot enough to melt this in it. Whew, hot. Turn the oxygen off first, turn the gas off last, and sometimes it leaks a little bit. Turn the oxygen on, it kills it. Now I want to turn the bottles off at the regulators. As I've talked to you earlier, there is what they call fire arrest or flashback on the regulators, and there's connectors I got on there that are quick disconnects. If they're not replaced within 6 months to a year all the time, they leak a little bit. So you got to remember that too. If you get quick disconnects, you got to replace them once in a while. There's an O-ring in there that when it slides in there, that seals it real good, and sometimes they just shrink on you and they leak a little bit. You don't want to ever put oil on them or anything. I didn't put it in the vise, did I? Anyways, flattened it out a little bit. That's going to help a lot. All right. See the flame's a little bit long, the whiter one, the bluish, that's carbonized flame. That's neutral. It's a tip with a bright blue, and it went out. If I give it a little bit more gas and more oxygen, it'll hiss a lot, and that's oxidized. So I'll bring the fuel back up, the acetylene, and the lights real good. So I like running at this brazing I do. See how it hisses? And it's not as bright as a blue. And it's not as pinpointed either. See how it got brighter? That's neutral. That's oxidized. Neutral. And I want to bring it out just a little bit. Like I said, I like it just a little bit carbonized. I'm having trouble with this. Oh man. The regulator's acting weird on me. There. Try that. I want to tack weld it on the top. on each side. Keeping the rod at the top of the puddle. Yeah, that was a gas pipe. I'm getting better at it. I only do this once in a while when I need to. But I'll be honest with you folks, it's been 20 years. Oh, get a dark lens. I got a lot of weld on that. If I laid it more flat, it probably would be a lot less weld. But it's welded on there pretty good. So I'll clean that up a little bit, and we'll do the other quarter, the opposite of this. That way it doesn't warp it real bad. It's easier to weld, and we'll pull it out of the way. So when I'm acetylene welding, whether it's brazing or whether it's actually welding steel, pipe, plate, the acetylene regulator will be equal pressure to the oxygen. Like I said, I like going into that 6, 7, 8 on the pressure for the acetylene. And when I go to the oxygen, I'm going to be there as well. You might want to go a little bit more, the bigger the torch tip. You know, a 3 and a 4, it might be in that 8 to 10. Victor does have a breakdown of how much pressure to give for that size tip. There's literature available that step by step I could go over it and it would take a half an hour to an hour. But if you can get a hold of that catalog, and it's a little book. I think I got one. I'll go get it right now. All right, here it is. Welding, Cutting, and Heating Guide. Victor Cutting Division. I don't know what year this book was issued. It cost me 50 cents. I bet you this thing's at least 30 years old. I got this before my daughter was born. But picked it up in a shop. And I was telling you about that porous mass in my previous video. This here shows a bottle, and it's got that foam that's all the way around. It's like an insulation pad that's inside it. But this book will go in here and it will tell you the pressures that you need and the size tip that you need, what tools to use. This is well money spent on a little book like this. It's going to tell you how to use your tools for cutting and welding with their product. I'm not getting paid to say this, but this is very good and useful to have and to research and look at it. So there you go.